formed this band called Vader Jacob in Grahamstown, just protesting against the state of emergency and the apartheid system. And we did some conscription campaign gigs.
But I know what I feel when I fill those bombs. And can you tell me what shapes this world? I feel the funding, supply their lights, white security and water. Bring the people, bring the spies, so much in order.
The entire concept of the band was against the political system. That's how it started with Vader Jacob. And it kind of evolved from there into Manhole and from there into Live Jimi Presley because the political situation changed. That was the time that PW went out of power and Mandela came out of prison. It was the first thing that happened when we got to Joburg. We watched Mandela walk out of prison.
Hitting in the face, you'll still be there. Raper in the cells, you'll still be there. Shot to death, you'll still be there. Stronger than before.
Grahamstown was a very strange place to be in. There was a township on one side and university on the other, and they used to shine lights from the Grahamstown monument across the university onto the township, spotlights. It was like being in a war zone. But there was a lot of anger around. It was a very strange situation. There were marches on campus and police used to shambok us, and we were very angry.
How can you sing about peace and love in a country where war is raging? There's two sides to life, and then there's the fence. It's easy to climb, it's a cinch if you're blind.
It was a mixture of sort of taking punk and industrial music from Europe and mixing it with the South African context of anger and wanting to say something against the system. We didn't have many instruments, so we played on things like car springs and bits of metal. Most of us couldn't play music, so we were just bashing on things to make a noise, and it was kind of angry young men. We did use a lot of aggression and military sort of uniforms and armbands in our performances and in the way we dressed. And yet what we were trying to say is we don't like that stuff. We're into peace and love. And it was often misunderstood. I think a lot of people knew that we were postgraduate students, most of us, and it was tongue-in-cheek, and it was trying to say things opposite to the way we might have projected it. We believed that you can change the window dressing, but actually people need to change. You can't just change political systems. What we were singing about then is still relevant, although the political situation's changed.
I think there was no seminal question. I think there was a lot of social commentary.
Maybe we weren't too clear about where we wanted people to go, but we wanted people to change.
We had one very, very funny gig is where the owner of the nightclub ran around to put toilet paper around the fire extinguishers and then sprayed it with water continuously through the gig because he was so scared that the water would go off. I think it just started becoming a problem when we ended. And I think people started becoming aware of the danger involved, especially since we started having indemnity forms to do.
I know a lot of people did complain about the smell of perfume. It did become a bit sort of stifling.
I remember noting wryly posters around the venue saying that the band is not responsible for death or injury caused by the performance.
We were very lucky that we didn't actually put one of the sparks from the air guns into someone's eyes, because we used to grind straight into the audience.
And we did throw about a litre of petrol into the feet when people were dancing and set it alight. Nobody ever caught fire, was cognizant.
I think one had to observe that there was inflammable liquid and people riding around in chains and a lot of spark. And I think you assume, if you come from a middle-class suburban background, that somebody else has taken care of the safety. And you think retrospectively that probably wasn't the case at all.
The more radical we were, the more these radical club owners wanted us to come and play. I think. There was a guy who he went and bought this massive strobe, so that it could really blow people's minds when they were watching us to have the strobe. But except that every time it went on, it shorted out the computer. So that was the end of the song. It was the worst gig we ever did.
There were performance standards that even then wouldn't have been allowed in any mainstream venue, certainly not internationally. But that was very much part of the intrigue, part of the outsider subcultural rebellion of probably largely middle-class people who needed to escape from the confines of the political environment and their own social environment.
We had one person who tried to climb up the speakers during the gig, and he got kicked off the speakers and then fell to the ground, and then all the girls in front of the stage started kicking him, and he sort of got out of it. And he was there the next weekend with a big smile and said he had the best time ever. And there was probably a rite of passage there, and he actually sort of went enabled from the army to come and join and watch the next gig. We just phoned ahead and we said we need a GIMP, and they had interviews to see who they thought was the best GIMP for the evening.
Strangely enough, people wanted to be victims, and they would queue up to be wrapped up in plastic and barbed wire and beaten and punched and chained to the stage and held in front of the sparks and basically punished. I don't know why that appealed to people, but it did appeal to people too.
I mean, the GIMP was always brought in carried or on a very he was cheated on the way in, on the way out, but while in doing the gig he was totally mistreated.
From a king to a slave.
That's quite interesting why people did that. I mean, they went naked. And we had one stage where the one GIMP had full of a razor wire on his head, and he got beaten up, and he came out after the gig, he came into the change room, a smile from here to here and blood running down, and he was just sort of totally ecstatic. He had so much good time. So
we did inject the GIMP with vitamin B.
Yeah.
I didn't know what they were getting injected with. It was like, hey, wow, we're going to get high.
GIMP fluid. As we went on musically, we actually removed ourselves more and more from the electronic instruments and started more playing percussions and making our own instruments. Going to a music shop actually meant going to a hardware store, so that we have the freedom of actually performing and adding to the beat and because the rest could be done by computers just as good as we did.
And we made our own posters, and made our own uniform and masks. It was all like about doing things ourselves. World music was only just starting to come out. It came to me in African music. It's just anything that isn't mainstream world music.
What was very important during that time, a large paradigm shift came in, was dance. The equalization of the music started shifting very much towards the beat. And I think that is what made dance music different. Started moving over to using sequences and so on. We started really pushing the beats, and then went and supported that by playing a lot of percussion.
Rave culture was just starting.
Yeah, we actually played a lot of rave clubs or rave events in the beginning. I think we were an important band because in retrospective it has actually come out that a lot of people have been influenced by Live Jimi Presley, unknown to us at the times.
They were then, and I think are now, probably the most important and the most powerful act to come out of South Africa. Perhaps an image which is retained by the fact that there aren't very many recordings and there's no professional commercial memory of them.
When we were approached by record companies, they offered us between 5 and 7%. And for us that was just not worth selling to the devil.
It's both frustrating and disappointing in some respects that they didn't achieve commercial success.
Which would we have done differently? I would have loved to have a record for many years.
And they had a longevity which outlived what you expected from a band with the reputation that you heard. All you saw was on-stage charisma, was on-stage magic.
I joined the band in the beginning of 1990.
And thank goodness Tilo came to join us, because there was one person who had a job. We worked 6 days a week. Practiced every night. We had a ritual that joints, they had to be beer no matter how broke we were, and we had to play every night. Very disciplined. It was some good times, it was some good times. But obviously with fights, Tilo would never wash up because he was the only one working.
It was fun, I really enjoyed it. We were quite close friends, all of us, so we went out together, and our whole lives actually was about the band.
We were creating our own movement.
We had a studio inside the house that we stayed in.
There was a room right in the middle, and that's where the music room was.
In the second house we also chose because he had a big double garage which was secure and far away from everybody, so we could actually practice at maximum volume without disturbing the neighbours.
It was a big Houghton mansion.
Yeah.
They left it in pieces, man.
The Houghton house was actually good. We had a big pool, and it was looked after. If my parents came along, we didn't have to worry about it. Except for all the beer bottles in the garden. Empty ones.
It's very strange people living with us.
The one day we had a guy stay there who moved in and he converted the whole lounge into a disco.
It was like this little room under the stairs that was about as big as a cupboard. We had this whole rifle there.
We went out one night, we came back and there was this disco in our lounge. I was full on with the mirrors and everything. We had a disco now. We heard that the house was going to be condemned, so everybody stopped caring for it and nobody paid rent anymore. And the carpets were so filthy that when you walked on there, it actually made like a screeching noise. I moved out because it got a bit hectic. Yeah, one day we got severely assaulted in a house in Rosettenville. We still don't know why that happened. And the next morning with my 28 stitches made, I walked into a gun shop and bought a gun. There was a few guns after one. We used it on stage as well.
With blanks?
With blanks, yeah.
We were actually dancing around in the kitchen one day, completely drunk, until I fired the gun into the ground at our feet. And pieces of bullet one of them went into my eye. I was bleeding all over the place till I thought he blinded me.
Yeah, we were not allowed to have guns actually.
We used to sit on the roof and at 5 in the morning and shoot guns into the air, and shoot guns while we were driving. Terrify cyclists.
Nobody got hurt, except for Derek.
The Presley's last gig was at Roxy's Rhythm Bar. It was actually quite a cool gig before the kind of accident happened at the end. There was like this 2 or 3 story sort of structure where the gig was happening, and there was tinsel that was raining down, and we all played with fire, and we used to set the stage light and use angle grinders, and so fire was an integral part of the show. There was this girl who decided she was going to blow petrol instead of paraffin. We never knew if it was an accident or it was deliberate. But when she did that, the fire came back into her mouth and burnt her whole face. So she basically set herself alight. It was in the middle of the song and everyone stopped playing. Everyone just stopped. That was it. That was the end of the gig. It was the end of the band. We were trying to get more and more heavy, more radical, and that was as radical as you can get. Someone almost dies.
When you find you're getting older, you feel you've got nothing to show. When you're counting out your days like a soldier, take a walk in the snow. These are days of dying. These are days to grow. I have seen you writhing on the floor, and I have hung your picture on the wall. I have laughed and I have cried, and I have sometimes turned around